we remain very concerned about Brexit. There is going to be a hard Brexit. We think it's inevitable at the moment unless the UK changes its disposition and remains in European open skies, and that could well lead to a significant disruption to flights from March 19 onwards. Brexit remains a big cloud. It is very difficult to see where it finishes up. The one thing we know for certain is that the UK has announced that they're not going to remain or recognise European Court of Justice rulings. That means that they take themselves inevitably out of the open skies regime. Therefore, aviation is not covered under WTO rules, so they would have to find an alternative. That means a bilateral. And I suspect that the Europeans will start bilateral negotiations by saying, fine, the first element of the bilateral is you've got to respect the European Court of Justice rulings, and the second element will be you're going to agree to the free movement of travel. And we think there is a real likelihood that for a period of time after March 19, there will not be a bilateral, and therefore there will be no basis on which we can fly or the airlines can fly either from the UK to Europe or from Europe to the UK. There's no doubt that our friends in Lufthansa and Air France are actively lobbying the Europeans to hold a hard line there and to cut off flights to and from the UK. And it may be one of the ways that British electorate begins to understand that actually, leaving Brexit is a dumb idea. It's all great talking about controlling your borders, but when that means you have to go on your holidays in Scotland instead of in Spain or Italy or Greece, it might soften their cough a little bit. Now, clearly, we hope it doesn't get to that stage, that there will be some interim arrangements or some bilateral, but we don't see how it gets done within a 12-month period. And interim arrangements require the votes of 27 different European parliaments, and we don't think that's likely to happen either. So we are preparing for the worst outcome, which will be no flights to and from the UK for a period of weeks or months after March 19. As a result of that, we're not basing any new aircraft in the UK during 2017 or 2018. All our new aircraft deliveries are being based at European airports. There are some additional flights into and out of the UK, but it means we can pivot those aircraft away from the UK if there's a disruption to flights or there's no legal basis for flying to and from the UK after March 19. We would have a significant number of aircraft based in the UK, and we are also looking at plans whereby we would repace those aircraft out of the UK airports and into European airports from March 19 onwards if it gets to those kind of crisis levels, but maybe that's what causes the UK to reassess Brexit or the incredible damage that's been done to the UK economy by Brexit in the run-up to March 19, which you may not be allowed to fly between Ireland and the UK. I mean, there's a real possibility that there may not be a framework for flights to and between the European Union and the UK, in which case we're all back on boats for a period of weeks or months.
Will you be able to fly through British airspace?
Yeah. Yes, because airspace is not tied. That's tied in by multilateral agreements. I mean, the Americans, the Russians, that's not governed by the UK membership of the EU or of Open Skies. I mean, so it doesn't affect overflights. But there may well be a period of time where there may be no flights, or we may be facing no flights to and from the UK. Now, a lot of the UK airlines are running around poo-pooing that idea as, not likely outcome. But, when you ask them, well, what's your alternative? They come up with some mumbled form of words, oh, we don't think it'll get to that, and oh, we're sure there'll be some sort of agreement in the meantime. Well, we say, well, how do you get to an agreement in the meantime? Where I think the Europeans will not be helpful in getting to an agreement or some interim arrangements. I think we're looking and facing a possibility that there may be no flights now for a period of time, and that may hopefully might alter the UK attitude to Brexit. No, it's not, we can't wait until March 19. We're going to have our drop dead date, I assume, would probably be Christmas of 2018. I think we will we'll launch the summer schedule certainly probably in March, April 18 for summer 19. It's absolutely clear there'll be no decision made on what the flight rights will be at that point in time. I think our cut-off decision will probably be the end of calendar 2018 because we have to move. If the aircraft are going to move out of the UK, we can move the aircraft easily, but moving the crews will be much more problematical. And I think we'd certainly need to give both the crews and the passengers probably 3 months' notice. So I think our cut-off point, and that's the bit that why aviation is the kind of, and I foresee probably no likelihood whereby there's going to be, unless the UK changes its mind, and which may well, I think, be the ultimate outcome, that they decide to stay in open skies. But staying in open skies means respecting ECJ rulings and freedom of movement, which kind of undermines the whole of the fucking Brexit thing anyway. But I think, as they look at jobs being exported out of the UK, in their thousands, maybe some sensible heads will prevail following the outcome of the current election.
It's about 85%. So when you put that against the number of bases, non-UK bases we have outside Europe, it's approximately 1 aircraft per non-UK base. So in terms of redistributing, while difficult in terms of staff and so on, I'd say that Ryanair is probably the best placed airline to deal with that type of outcome. I mean, we've identified homes for all of these aircraft at this point. That will change and evolve over time as airports compete with each other to secure potential capacity moved from the UK. Sorry?
Would any of them go to Dublin?
It depends on the costs at Dublin.
It does, and at the moment, and then the costs and regime at Dublin, there's no incentive at the moment for growth out of Dublin.